The 2026 World Cup expands the field to 48 teams, but the defining matchup of the early stages pulls focus squarely to the east coast of the United States for the opening of Group C. MetLife Stadium in New Jersey hosts the clash. On paper, it is a neutral venue. In reality, it serves as a high-stakes battleground for two of the most passionate fan bases in the sport. Tens of thousands of fans are traveling from North Africa, bringing the exact same high-pressure atmosphere that fueled their team to a historic semi-final run in Qatar. But with over 2.5 million Brazilians currently living in the United States, the Selecao have a massive, local diaspora ready to transform the stands into a replica of the Maracanã. Before a single whistle blows, the volume inside the stadium, whether dominated by the Moroccan red wall or the Brazilian yellow, will dictate the emotional temperature of the match. The South American giants arrived in North America carrying heavy baggage. Their qualifying campaign was statistically their worst ever, culminating in a 4-1 defeat in Buenos Aires that forced the exit of head coach Dorival Júnior. Meanwhile, their opponents have steadily consolidated their power. Following their 2022 run, the Atlas Lions have climbed the ranks to become the top team on the African continent. When these two sides met for a friendly in Tangier in 2023, Morocco walked away with a 2-1 victory. Beating a 5-time world champion is now an established capability in their playbook. Securing a result against the record champions in a World Cup opener would move Morocco beyond the giant killer label. It would suggest that their semi-final run in Qatar was a new standard for the program, rather than a once-in-a-generation peak. To fix the qualifying disaster, Carlo Ancelotti implemented a hyper-aggressive 4-2-4 formation. This structure pushes 4 yellow nodes right up against the opposition's defensive line, leaving only a thin 2-man screen in the midfield. This system typically requires a deep dropping forward to connect the lines, but a late calf injury has ruled Neymar out of the opener, stripping the squad of its primary creative link. Without historical overlapping threats on the flanks, like Cafu or Roberto Carlos, Ancelotti has ordered his central midfielders to drop deep and shield the back line. The attacking burden now falls entirely on the wings. Vinícius Júnior must use his pace in isolation to break down defenders one-on-one. If that initial wave of pressure is bypassed, Gabriel Magalhães is left to manage vast amounts of empty space behind Brazil's forward line. Ancelotti has sacrificed midfield stability to overwhelm opponents in the final third. It makes Brazil lethal on the break, but leaves them exposed on the counter. Morocco counters with a possession-heavy 4-3-3. During the deep build-up, the goalkeeper and center backs spread wide, drawing the press forward. Once the opposition commits, wide defenders move inside, creating a dense cluster of 5 players in the middle. Achraf Hakimi is the engine driving this rotation. He constantly shifts between the flank and the interior, opening up passing lanes that free Morocco's wingers. However, the system relies on absolute security at the back, and Morocco is missing Nayef Aguerd. Without their primary defensive anchor, the backline lacks its usual cohesion. By pulling players into the midfield to dominate possession, Morocco leaves a vacuum behind their high defensive line. That empty space is exactly what Brazil's isolated wingers need. The tactical collision is inevitable. Morocco will apply a high, synchronized press, while Brazil waits for the exact moment to launch a vertical counterattack. In the center of the pitch, Bilal El Khanous will hunt for the gaps left open by Brazil's thin 2-man midfield, trying to thread passes before Gabriel can close him down. If Morocco survives Vinicius, they must eventually face Endrick. Coming off the bench, he provides a fresh physical threat against a tiring back line. When legs tire and tactical discipline fades in the final 20 minutes, individual execution will determine the outcome. Taking 3 points here practically guarantees a first-place finish in Group C, carving a much more forgiving route through the sprawling knockout bracket. The ultimate prize looms over every tactical decision. Brazil is desperate to end a 2-decade drought and secure a 6th star, while Morocco aims to become the first African nation to lift the trophy. Brazil enters MetLife Stadium fighting to restore a legacy that's been under siege. Morocco arrives to prove their rise to the top 10 was a hard-earned evolution, not a temporary surge.